Hello everybody, this is Scott Bryce. I'm doing an update on a couple of experiments I'm doing in my worm bin. This is a 10-day update. For those of you who may not be familiar, let me explain what's going on here. This first experiment was to see if the worms will eat dog food. This dog food in this container is a low-cost dog food. It is primarily corn, with the secondary ingredients being meat and bone meal. If I pull this up, take a look at it, you'll see there are no worms in this. The total volume of the dog food has gone down to about half the original volume. It's totally absorbed what I want is taken over with mold, which is what I would expect in something that's primarily corn. I'm going to keep this one going and see what happens when the mold has run its course, and see if the worms move in once the mold has consumed as much of the dog food as it's going to consume. But at this point, I've had a few worms poke around on the edges of this every now and then, but for the most part the worms are avoiding this. They don't seem to be showing any interest in the dog food. I have some dog food that was left over from this experiment that I tossed at another point in my bin. I haven't seen any worms go after that either. That's buried under the bedding right now, so we're not going to be able to find it and see, but at this point the worms haven't shown any interest in it. This is my second experiment. To give you some background, if you haven't been keeping up on the videos, there are some composting facilities, professional composting facilities, that will compost grease trap waste from restaurants. What they will do is they will absorb the grease in bedding. They'll provide enough bedding to completely absorb the grease, and then they will hot compost the bedding with the grease absorbed in it. I wanted to see if something similar can be done in a worm bin. This has been going for 10 days now, so let's take a look at this. Let's see, get my hand out of the way so you can see. And as you can see, oh, here we go. The worms are literally crawling all over each other for an opportunity to get into this container. They're eating hamburger grease. And if we poke around in here a little bit, see if I can do this, like, get my hand in the way, you'll see the worms are just having a heyday in here. They love this stuff. They are going crazy in here. This thing is loaded, absolutely loaded with worms. So, question of whether the worms will eat hamburger grease, the answer to that question is absolutely yes, they will, if you handle it correctly. I've been amazed at how this has gone. My assumption was the worms would eventually eat the grease, but they wouldn't do it right away. This poor worm's kind of lethargic here. It is very hot, and the worms are kind of complaining about the heat. That's why they're moving so slow. But the worms moved into this just within a few days, like 3 or 4 days after I put it in here, and there have been more and more worms in this every day. They are eating this stuff up. They love this stuff. So the conclusion is that if you handle it correctly, yes, you can put grease in the bin, but it must be absorbed completely in bedding. I may try an experiment later on where I just put grease that's not absorbed in bedding and see how the worms respond. But this seems to be a huge success at this point. I'm going to keep this going and let the worms consume it until it's entirely castings. But at this point, yeah, you can put grease in the bin and the worms will eat it up. So there you go.